Okay, here's part two. Had that quick little introductory video. This is the follow-up to that, and basically this is what I've done so far up until this point to try to get this set up. So again, MSD 8232 ignition coil specifically for motorcycles. This is actually designed for high revving setups. Here's the original coil. We'll just throw these on the scale real quick. Okay, 9.7, 12.9, so slightly heavier. I don't know if that amounts to higher count and winding or whatnot, but it's kind of where we're at for this. Or with this. That being said, I also have this part number 34069. That was basically this wire kit. Now, originally, this whole thing comes together as one unit. And then I basically trimmed it to size. And then what you get is you get this block here, this goes in, and you use a vise. I don't have a vise anymore. I got rid of it, so I used a C-clamp, and I basically C-clamped it together to crimp it. Now to get it started, it's going to be a little tricky because these don't exactly fit. So this is just an example of one of them that comes in. And see how you have this portion here? This does not fit inside of here yet. So you kind of have to pre-crimp it. I just used some pliers. And then the ends here, I bent it in a little bit more. That way it created a little bit more grip. And then this is kind of the end product that you end up with. And then the important thing when you're doing it is that there's a stem, little wire, or the actual electrode that goes through here. This is designed to where it measures it for you, so you know where to cut. So one side is for 8mm, this is for 8.5mm wire, and that slides in like that. And then you basically just hold your razor blade flat against it. Do I have my razor knife in here? Yeah. Hold it flat against it like this. And then you rotate the wire, and it'll allow you to cut it without cutting the core. And then I actually ended up trimming the core because that was an excess amount. But I'd rather do that so I can get as close of a fit up that I could. And going back to this, ends up looking like this. So this is the factory OEM crimp. And as you can see, let me see if I can zoom in for you. Right there. So you crimp here, and then I use some pliers to crimp here. And that is basically pinching that electrode so it transfers that energy into the actual spark plug itself. So you'll cut it to length and then make sure you crimp it on there. It comes pre-crimped, but you have to basically close the gap around the wire. All right, so here's what we're working with. Ignition here, all right? Now, what I'm using is I have a M6 long stem stainless bolt, and I opted to use this not because it's a dress-up washer, but because this large flat surface that's on here, because I want to have as large of a surface to apply pressure to here, and I'll explain that why here in a little bit. Looked at it for a while to try to figure out what the best method would be. So before we install this, well, you know what? I can show you how we're going to do this. Let's pull this, and let's walk on over here. So, wiring harness. This is the factory ground. This is the harness that comes with it. I basically just put these two grounds together and then I end up bolting them to the chassis, which I'll show you here in a little bit. Then you have red and black. Red is power, constant power, and then this black is actually the signal. Now, I crimped it directly to my power commander harness. I do have those separate wires elsewhere. Here's the factory harness, and as you can see with the color, same ordeal, okay? Best thing you can do is probe it. If you turn the key on, probe it, you'll have one with constant power. That's the one that you know that you'll need to eventually hook up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this in position and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so here is the living space that we're dealing with here. So this is actually gonna end up going right about here. You can see the tower right there. You have the connector end there. It's gonna take a little bit of finessing, but that's about where the OEM unit sits. Now, as you can see, that's a little bit wider by a significant margin. So I'm gonna mount it up to here, facing backwards towards the bike. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is get all that hooked up, and then we'll just recap once I get that done. All right, we're back. So here's where we are. So the toughest part was finding a way to get this in the packaging that it is in the same area, and being able to fit within the constraints of, you know, where we're located. So this sits inside of here. Now on the bottom, I did use a zip tie. It is, with the way that it's mounted, it is very sturdy, but I wanted a zip tie down here just in case, because this is a pretty decent amount of space and I don't want this vibrating around just in case. So I'd rather have this kind of pressed against it more and preventing it from being able to rotate around. So back here, this is where those ground wires are. And on the back side, I have a washer and a locking nut. One ground wire from the main harness, the other ground wire comes around. I don't know if we can get a good shot of it. No, it doesn't look like it. It comes around and connects on the back side of that as well. And that's pretty much where we're at. You can see we've got it plugged in over here. Nice and neat, kind of out of the way. Right, no big deal. Now I've already test fired this, but we'll go ahead and start it up and see how she sounds. Now, keep in mind, I have no idea about what benefits we're actually going to see. If any, it's possible we don't see any at all. But this is one of those things where you never really know until you look or try. So in my case, you know, we'll give it a shot, see what happens. And in this particular case as well, it's 100% reversible. So not worried about that part. I can easily go back to the factory setup, and should it not work out. So I'm not going to have like a full-on video on impressions until I actually drive it. So I'm going to try to ride tomorrow, see what it's like. But let's give it a shot. Ignore the check engine light. That's just because the purge valve delete runs pretty smooth. So I'm excited to see how this looks. I don't have any like formal testing equipment to kind of, you know, test and measure voltage output and all that other good stuff, right? Not gonna lie to you, the most that I did was I did some slow-mo videos of the freaking spark that it produced, and And, you know, judging by what I saw, it does look like the MSD one did put out a hotter spark and, you know, much bigger arc. As stupid as that sounds, because it's not a formalized or any kind of scientific answer in any way, because I don't have that equipment to test it. So my testing is just going to be me, you know, hot dogging the crap out of this thing and seeing how it rides. So that's kind of where we're at. So if anybody has any questions or whatnot, you know, I'll post a video here in the near future with an update on riding impression, and hopefully be able to answer some of those questions. So here's the carbon forks. These are still looking great. And I actually think that these actually help when it comes to temperature. Just throwing that out there. I'm trying to think if I've done anything else since this that I haven't really documented. I don't think I have. For those of you that have been asking me about valve clearance videos, at some point I'll do it. I've just had some stuff going on because I've been waiting for my car to get back, and it's finally here. And as you guys can see, cleared up my garage.